about displaying the content of BSDS, when you're talking about updating the information in BSDS. Okay, now all these kind of things will be mainly done by system programmer, but then as an application you should know what information is stored where. Okay. Now when you talk about standalone ones, the main thing is they do not require DB2 to be up. When DB2 need not be up. So for any information which you need to update, like you want to update the information in BSDS, or you want to create new active logs, okay, you want to activate new active logs, you want to print the content of any vsam files, okay. So all of this information as an application DB you should know, but then you will not be working directly with them. In fact, in certain environments like banking domain and all that, they will not give you access to run these utilities also. Okay. Now, when you talk about application utilities, or what we call as online utilities also. Okay. So your online, yeah, so I was telling, when we talk about utilities, as I told you, two types. One is your standalone or system utilities. That is, these mainly work with your system parameters and they don't need your DB2 to be up. Okay. When you talk about application utilities, you also call them as online utilities. That is, which require, they need DB2 to be up. Okay. Now, see, in simple words, you can know that why these utilities are called application utilities. The main thing is they need DB2 to be up because, for example, you want to do load, unload. Okay, you do need the, yeah, they are going to act on the DB2 objects, right? So these utilities are important because, sorry, these utilities are called online utilities because they are mainly working with DB2 objects. Okay, for example, you take load, you take unload, which is unloading the data and loading the data. You have copy, okay, you have run stats, you have reorg, you have rebuild index, okay, you have repair, and what else is there? Yeah, you have copy, run stats, okay, you have recover, okay. So all of these utilities will need your DB2 objects to be up. Okay. Now, in different scenarios, whenever we are talking about utilities and all that, if you remember, I told you there are three types of status when we talk about utilities. What are those? If you remember. Okay, so you have either the utility will, okay, so either you'll have the utility in the started status, or you will have in the stop status, or you will have in the terminated status. Okay, so when you are going to talk about any utility which is going to run, you will have any of these three statuses. Okay, and as the word says, start utility is nothing but the utility has started or is running. Okay, now stop utility, this means that utility is not running, is not running, but the resources are still held. Okay, so for for this one, if for example one utility, like generally when do you talk about stop status? You mainly talk about stop status is when a particular utility is running, a job is running, and the job fails due to some reason. Okay, the the utility will go into stop status. Okay, but the objects on which it was working, those objects will not. Yeah, correct. It will be holding the object still. So if you try to run the utility again on the same object, then it will fail saying that duplicate util ID exists. Okay. Now when you talk about util ID, what do you mean? Every utility will be assigned a utility ID. Okay. So for example, if I want to see utilities, I can give display util, or I can give display util and then give the util ID. Okay. If you want to terminate the utility, then you will give term util, or you will give, right. Yeah, Prashant, you are able to hear me? Okay. So the okay. Now when we are talking about any particular utility which needs to be run, okay. Now either there are different ways of running it. One is you do it through tools. Okay. One is running utilities through tools. So you can always use spoofy, or you can use admin tool. Okay, or you can use BMC tools. Okay, any of these tools you can use to use the utilities. There will be particular options, so which you can give that, and they will generate the job automatically. Okay, once they generate the job, then you can have the utilities set up. The only thing which you would have to change is the object. Okay. Now, one more thing to remember before we go in details about any utility is whenever you are talking about utilities, generally you are talking about utilities running at database.tablespace level. Okay. That means even if you are doing load unload, okay, although you are doing a load on the table, okay, the control parameters in the beginning what you give is database name dot tablespace name. In that again you can choose if you want to specifically load a particular table. Is it clear? One second. Yeah, one second. Wait. Yeah. So when we are talking about yeah, running the utilities, as I told you, either you can run them from a particular tool, or you would have to set up the JCL to run those. Okay. So one second. Yeah. So see, now when you talk about utilities, this topic, if you if you start going in detail, you would need to know, see, any particular utility, okay, any JCL job you are running will need a input data set and will need a output data set, right? And along with that, if you are going to use that JCL or job to do something specific to DB2, then you will generally have a control statement. Like you will have sys in star, and then you will have the control statement. Now this control statement will do what kind of utility you are running. Okay. Now when you are talking about a particular JCL, either you can have saying whatever you have input and everything, then you'll have sys in, and then you will say okay, load or unload or something, or recover. Okay, you will give a specific utility name and it will give the task. Okay. Or you have something called as list def and template, if you remember. Okay, you remember list def and template, which we were talking about is list def and template. Okay, so list def is talking about defining a list of objects. Okay, so for example, I say list def Prashant, and then I say uh, table spaces. Okay, then I give db name dot star. Okay, now what I'm saying here is I'm defining a list called Prashant, and I am saying it should include all the table spaces which are within the database db name. Okay, so for example, if I'm going to say copy utility, okay, if I'm going to run the copy utility, and if I say list def is Prashant, then I am saying that create a copy of or create a backup of all the table spaces within this database. Okay, now what is the benefit of this? See, we will do it practically. As of now, today, you just try to understand the logic. Okay. Okay. So the main thing here is what is the motive of this? For example, you are working in an environment which has multiple table spaces which need to be backed up. Okay. Now, in that case, if you want to do the backup of those table spaces, okay, either you can set up individual jobs to do the backup one by one. Okay. Or what you can do is you can create a list def and you can say, backup by giving the list name. Now, only in case, for example, in a working environment, what happens? You have say 200 table spaces or 100 table spaces or more than that. Okay. On a frequent basis or on a regular basis, you will not be making changes or dropping these table spaces. Okay, so instead of you setting up 10 different jobs and monitoring one by one, you can have one job which will be doing backup of each table space by just giving a list def. So it makes your tracking easier, it makes processing easier, and in case you want to delete some table space from the list def and all that, you can always exclude that from the list which you have defined. It is same thing like what we do in a mainframe job. If you remember when I was showing you ISMF, I was telling you that a storage administrator can include some volumes and exclude some volumes, right? In the same way, you can say list def Prashant table spaces, like you can say include this, and then you can say exclude the particular database name dot table space name. Okay. Now, what do you mean by template? Template is nothing but, for example, you are creating, you are running an unload job. Okay. Now, unload job will create a data set as you have given, and it will put the unloaded data into that. Okay. Or you are, say, for example, on a regular basis, you are creating backup. Okay. So when you are creating backup, the backup will be in the form of data sets. Okay. So when you're creating backup, what you can do is you can give a naming convention or a template saying that my backups should start with something like, dsndbd dot prashant dot backup one or backup star. So every time you run that job, it is going to use this template in the form of GDG. The only thing is it is going to add one more version to it. Okay. So basically that is the use of list def and template. Okay. Now, for example, see this one. Jobs. One second.